I'd like to thank the Montclair African American Heritage Organization for considering me. I think this is such an honor to be considered an ambassador, and I strive to be that in my daily walk. Montclair's population is diverse, and we do have a large African American / Black population, kids who come from the islands, from everywhere. I have found it very important in Montclair to not only be a guidance counselor at the high school, but to work with the community. And in that role, I've done many things. I have worked with the American Legion with the New Jersey Boys State and the New Jersey Girls State, and I've worked with the Alpha Phi Alphas in their male empowerment endeavors. I've worked with Sister to Sister. I've been involved with Brother to Brother. There are just a lot of organizations who come into play to assist Montclair students, especially those underrepresented.
My inspiration came from being in the Girl Scouts. And Girl Scouts laid that foundation for me. With growing up in this town, you grew up in a village. Just being around the older adults and watching how they interact, listening to them speak about doing different things in the community, actually, I guess, grew on me. I saw that there was a lot of things in the community that was going on, and I also realized that there were young adults and young teenagers and children that needed someone to talk to, someone to educate them, and someone to advocate for them. So by just dealing with those young people, I got a name of being the street advocate. And then that led me to become a Girl Scout leader. And I became that Girl Scout leader and actually mentored over 100 girls within our community, within the 4th Ward, and to be leaders also.
I would like to acknowledge the founders of the African American Heritage Parade and Festival, and now the foundation. I think that to have the mindset to create such a grand endeavor that everyone in the town looks forward to is tremendous, and then to have it last this long is absolutely tremendous as well. And I consider success of any venture to be when that venture goes beyond you and goes beyond your years. And so if it lasts beyond your years, then that means you've been quite successful in creating that venture. I definitely think it's important to have African Americans and African American women and men be in the field of medicine. Medicine is a field that requires a lot of study, requires discipline, and is a field that most people see as very respectable and very honorable. And it's important for our young people to see role models who are achieving very, very high goals in the community. African Americans in general in healthcare are very important because we know that the issues related to African Americans are quite different from the issues related to other cultures, just based on our history and based on our genetics. Our makeup is quite different, and so it's very important that someone understand, and not just understand, but also appreciate the individuality and the individual differences of Black men, women, and children. So without an understanding and an appreciation of our differences and our unique culture and our unique history, many times people can't serve us the way that we should be served. So it's very important that we study hard. My big emphasis in life has always been education. And if you can improve the education of an individual, you can improve the overall wellness of their family, you can improve the wellness of our communities, we can improve the wellness of our entire country with just education.
I taught at Montclair High School. I was up there for 26 years, from 1971 to 1997. Without education, you can't get any place. You're not going to get hired. You can't fill out an application form for anybody. You don't understand what people are saying, and you have to go and try to get the most that you can. Everyone can do the best. Now you have to go and say, I can do this. You don't have to get somebody else to. You're going to make yourself proud of yourself. And I try to, instill the importance of education, to the importance of doing the best they can in every subject they have. Now you need an education to get a good job. And the more education you have, the better job you can get. And you got to go out and, fight for yourself. And be proud of yourself for what you can do. Because only you can do it. You got to have it in you to do it.
You want Montclair to be a community that whatever part of town you live in, you feel safe, you feel loved, you feel cared about, and you're nurtured. That's the town I grew up in. And I was intentional about coming home after graduating from college because most of my peers didn't go to college. The brothers I grew up with on Fulton Street didn't go to college. And it was something that I know that young people were told that college is not for everyone. And that was a lie, and it's still a lie that's being perpetuated today. And we're not equipping our kids or doing them a service, we're doing them a great disservice by buying into that lie that college is not for everyone. It's a global world, it's a global economy, and if our kids are not prepared to deal globally, then we're always going to be the dominant perpetual underclass. And you see in the schools where teachers teach down to the students, and they don't, not all teachers, because I know we had some great teachers back in our day, but students will rise up to whatever expectation you place on them. We don't live in this world in isolation. We don't live in this community in isolation. And we can sit back and talk about the good old days and what we used to do. But there's a mandate on the table to be current, to have a current testimony, a current service, a current work in 2016. So you can't keep telling me about what happened way back when we have to have a current situation, because time does not go backwards, time goes forward.
As you know, I'm a Montclair native. This is my hometown, and have the good fortune and the honor to serve as its mayor. It's different for me, I think, for many other people who have served before, because it is my hometown, and I've seen it grow, I've seen it change, evolve. Some things that are typical or consistent with the Montclair of my youth, and some things that are different. Some of those things are not as good, in my opinion, and some things are much better. So, but all in all, it's a town that's growing, I think, very positively, and I'm really happy to be able to be in a leadership position to help to frame that change and to be a part of the discussions, and again, be in a leadership role and making Montclair an even better place. And for me, being grounded in Montclair, having Montclair blue in my blood, really helps me when I'm thinking about what do we want to do for the future. I'm always mindful of the fact that we've got to change and we've got to grow and evolve, but also too, I want to be true to the values, to the culture, to the ethos that made Montclair the place that everybody wants to come to and everybody wants to stay. And if we lose that, then we've kind of, as for some price, we've kind of given away our souls. So it's a fine balance, but I think so far we've done a decent job of trying to, of achieving that balance.
I'm very excited to be here and honored that the Montclair African American Heritage Festival Commission has chosen Home Corps to be an ambassador. Home Corps has been around for going on 28 years in Montclair, And our mission, simply put, is to preserve the community. Montclair, of course, is well known for its cherished history and diversity and inclusion, and Home Corps seeks to preserve that diversity and inclusion. We've redeveloped 112 units of ownership and rental housing, and these occupants are typically low, moderate, and middle income families from Montclair and beyond. To see a family move into a home and become stabilized and financially empowered because of that stability and on some level independence is a very rewarding feeling. Our mission, again, and our primary goal is to see that families, that the adults and the children in the household have a place that is decent and that is affordable to them. When one moves into a home that one can afford, that is decent, all kinds of outcomes, positive outcomes happen. There's a place now for the child to sit down and do their homework every night. That means that they are more prepared for school the next day. And in the long range, hopefully we'll get better grades, test scores. That in turn helps the school district, makes it stronger. So we like to think that our work is much even bigger than helping one family, but helping a whole community.
Well, when I heard that we were being recognized, I was surprised, but happy. I'm definitely happy. You know, I appreciate the Heritage Foundation for the recognition. So, yeah, I'd say I'm happy.
Based on the people who, for the last 24 years, were given the same award, I thought if I was considered in that same light or that same circle, that was a great honor. You know, it quite frankly, it moved me, and still moves me.
I kind of grew up here. I started when I was 15, and you learn a lot of lessons that you can learn in school, but a lot of life lessons I've learned in the barbershop. Just from talking with people from all backgrounds, meaning, you can have a financial guy in here, you can have a lawyer in here, you can have all kinds of different people. It's like a melting pot. And you never know what you're going to get until you do strike up a conversation in the barbershop, and the guy may be sitting over there and say, oh, well, I heard about this kind of investment, or I'm a dentist, or I'm a lawyer. If you do it this way, it might be better off than, as far as labor, anything. So, yeah, it's very helpful to the community, especially ours, because certain places, certain people wouldn't talk about certain things in African American society, but here is a place where everybody could come in and feel free and talk freely, because what goes on usually in the barbershop stays in the barbershop.
I think my business helps bring quality to the community, because when you get your hair cut, it's an experience. It's deeper than just a haircut. It's an experience. You got people from every different, anything that you could think of here, and every time you're here, it's a different adventure. And a lot of times, a lot of relationships are created here. A lot of different things happen, and it all happens from people being here at the same time.
I think the barbers try to treat each other and the customers as humans. I think the price is economical in today's market. I think dependability is there. If you come to get a haircut, that's what you're going to get, and most times we're here and we try to accommodate. Accommodation, I guess, would be another one. The relationship between the barbers and the customer is ranked very, very high. The ability to be a role model for black children, both men and daughters, boys and girls, is a plus, is a blessing.
I think community service is important because you are able to give back to the community, and you're able to help others that may not be able to help themselves, and it's more likely for them to have a better life when you're helping them. When I'm an adult in the future, I would love to donate to charity, probably maybe help others and give back to my community, the people in Montclair that may not have that great of a life. And I've been blessed with having a good life, so I would want everyone to have a good life such as mine.
First of all, I want to thank the committee for honoring me to be the Grand Marshal of the 2016 festival. Tremendous honor, tremendous group of people that are in the committee. Many of them are like family to me. Many of them have grown up in this wonderful community, have gone to school here, have worked here, and given their all. And all the past Grand Marshals, how about that? To be mentioned with them is quite an honor. And also to be honored along with Sheila Oliver. How about that? Doesn't get any better than that.
I have been what I define as a community activist, quite frankly, since I was in high school. And of course, I had the opportunity to grow up and come of age during a period of time where we were just coming out of the 1950s civil rights movement, and we were entering into the whole Black consciousness, Black power movement. So as a high school student, you know, my peers, we were very cognizant of what was going on around the world, the social justice issues, the equal rights issues. So I got involved at that period of time. I think after that, I chose to go to a historically Black college. I went to Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, which we know was the first historically Black college in the United States. It had always been a school for Black men, and they made a decision to let it become a co-ed institution. So I was in the third class of women that entered Lincoln University. I was always surrounded and steeped with this issue of activism, particularly for people of color, and what our commitment needed to be to uplift socially, economically, educationally, and culturally our people.
In 1973, that I joined the Montclair Police Department. It's probably very difficult back in those times, but there were mentors there. There were individuals who served the town. Mr. Smith, Al Smith, Mr. McGill, Mr. Page, Auburn Peterson, Arnold Bostic, Ellis, was on the job, Roger Spain, individuals who were Boy Scout and Cub Scout leaders that were individuals, coaches to help you do whatever sports activity that you were involved in. So I knew through the police department that I could use that as a vehicle to help also. Seeing in those days, in the early 70s and after all the issue of the 60s, that was going to be something that was going to be trying, In those days, as you know, that a lot of people didn't like police. We just came out of an era where the police, not here in Montclair, but around the country, were beating up on people and sicking dogs on them. Here that was 40 years ago, and even today, we see some of the same. How unfortunate is that?
I often say that if your voice isn't in the room, terrible things can happen. And my experience being in the state legislature is, first of all, historically, most legislatures are comprised of attorneys. And we often make jokes about it, that the best lawmakers in the world aren't necessarily lawyers. You need diverse voices in the lawmaking process to represent all kinds of people in our state. So I think being a woman of color, being very sensitive to issues of disadvantaged populations, people that I like to refer to as disenfranchised, I think that I'm able to be a voice there. You know, when we're deliberating on things like minimum wage and elevating it, when we're dealing with issues of do we need civil service, do we not need civil service, pay equity, child care, social services, for people who don't have an experience in how important that is to a lot of people in our state, it would just be overlooked. So I think that I am able to be a voice in the legislature that can influence a lot of the public policy positions we have, and then an opportunity to change laws.